I'm here at the Bustamante Show, and the news is that they're going to be celebrating a major anniversary. Which anniversary is that?
40th.
The 40th.
No.
When would that?
That's next, yeah.
When would that?
March. Next
March. So this pretty much is the 6-month countdown to your 40th anniversary.
Yeah, right.
Okay. And where was the first show back then, 40 years ago? Where was it held?
We're talking 40 years here.
Oh, 40 years here.
Right.
You mean you were doing other shows in other locations before here, or you started here?
Our first show was Hollywood Palladium 40 years ago.
At the Hollywood Palladium. Now let's see, is that on Argyle and Sunset across the street from the Aquarius Theater?
Yeah.
And what year was that you had a show there?
1975.
1975.
1974. Yeah.
Okay, so that was 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And what month was that?
In January.
Okay, so you've been in the business for 40 years plus about 4 or 5 months.
Yes.
And he's going to celebrate 40 years
In this
in this
facility.
facility.
Okay, well, I think we could do a little fudging and say that you've been at this for 40
Yeah, I
years.
think you can do that.
So, at your Palladium show, about how many dealers did you have there?
We had 72 dealers.
So you had 72 dealers at your first show at the Palladium, and so what was that experience like to have an antique show for the first time?
It's pretty tough because we had to abide by an ordinance in the city of Los Angeles, which required all the dealers to be fingerprinted, photographed, and a perpetual inventory of all the merchandise they had.
My God.
Very difficult.
So did you ever have a second show in the city of Los Angeles?
Oh yes, we were in the Palladium for almost 5 years.
Oh, so you were there for quite some time.
Yeah, then they turned it into a dance hall, and we had to leave the facilities here.
Okay. So after the Palladium, did you go to the Los Angeles Convention Center?
We were at the convention center at the same time we were doing the Palladium.
Ah. So there was the Palladium, the Convention Center, there was the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium. What other venues did you have?
Disneyland Hotel.
Oh, and about what year was that?
I can't remember, hell.
Okay, so the Disneyland Hotel.
Yeah. San Diego.
I remember that in San Diego.
Del Mar.
That probably was a short-lived one. That's pretty much Grimes territory.
Well, we were there for about 3 years ourselves, and then we produced it for the education of people there for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Fresno, Bakersfield, San Francisco, San Mateo, Santa Clara, Salt Lake City,
Lunch counter in there?
Yeah. Boy, that's
Las Vegas.
where
Reno.
where in Las Vegas?
In Las Vegas, we were at the Stardust Hotel.
Oh, the Stardust Hotel. Well, that's a very classy place.
Yeah, well, that was the old Stardust, not the new one.
I would assume so.
And we were in Phoenix, Scottsdale.
Thank you.
That's about it.
Well,
I told him Salt Lake City.
okay. Show with all these logistics, all the things that you have to do. What is one of the most difficult things as far as going to a location and setting up? What are some of the difficult problems?
Well, one of the most difficult problems we had was putting trailers on the train and sending them to Salt Lake City to do the shows in Salt Lake City.
And where did you put the
We
what's
put
it?
the trailers on the trains in Fresno.
I say.
No, in Fresno, California.
I say. Wow, that's amazing. What's? It's a repro. Oh, certainly.
These are
Is that a Chaparras?
cars that was done in 70s or 80s, and the quality is superb, and they're about 1/10 the price of Chaparras.
So how old is this repro?
Probably 70s.
Okay, so this repro is 40 years old. I'm not even sure if
Actually, see that boot straight ahead? Look at me against the wall.
Uh-huh.
They have two others in that booth.
Ah.
Okay? In other words, of different, just a coincidence of a different chaparral.
Well, so how much do you want for this chaparros?
It's 4,000.
4,000. Okay. Well, it's a beautiful piece. Now, is there a name for this? Is this like called the dancer, or?
Each one has a name, but this is also. This is interesting.
I'm here at the Bustamante Show, and I'm speaking to Catherine Manzini. And Catherine Manzini is a distinguished dealer from Northern California, is that right?
That is right.
And Catherine, you know, as I was going through your booth, I found this robe. I think it's one of the most sensational things, not just in your booth, but in the show. So, what is it that you can tell me about it? Could you get a big poker?
Crooked.
It's crooked. Is it in?
Now it's no.
Let's allow it to be crooked.
All right.
I'll just tilt the camera. So, what can you tell me about it? How old would you say it is?
1880s.
1880s. Now, 1880. Now, what country is this from?
This is China.
So this is China. Do you know what province in China this is from?
No, but it was in a theater.
Oh, it was a theater.
It was part of a theater company.
Oh, so this is a
military,
costume.
faux military opera robe.
I see.
This is a military man.
And so, did you tell me what it's made out of?
It's made out of silk,
Uh-huh.
and it's all hand embroidered, and it's studded. That's the military part.
I see.
That's how we know it's a military leader.
So he's a high-ranking military official?
High-ranking military official, and you know in opera,
Yes.
men played all the parts. But this actually would be a man's military robe.
Okay.
And it comes with this chaps. This is actually two parts, and it's like a chap.
No, what is the chap?
It's worn over his pants.
Oh, okay.
It's worn under this, and it comes down.
I see.
So it extends the robe all the way to the ankle.
And so, if you were inclined to sell it, which I suspect you may be one day, like today, how much would it take to get this out of your hot little hands?
$1,800.
So for $1,800, they could have it. Now, what is something that they would do with it? A person who owns one of these things.
They'd probably keep it out of sunlight, but hang it on a big stairwell in a home. Because these Chinese embroideries are really getting rare and getting snapped up. They're just hard to find.
Okay. Then, so how long have you known the twins?
I knew them since they were teenagers.
Are you from like Long Beach or something? How did you meet? How did you know them back then?
They started doll collecting. This must have been the mid-70s. Somewhere. I met them in the 70s
And where did you meet them?
at a doll show.
Okay, so you met them at a doll show in Anaheim?
No, let me see. The first time I remember seeing them was a doll show at the Santa Monica Civic that then moved to Culver City.
Okay.
And then, oh gosh, wherever there were doll shows,
They would show up.
they
Sure.
would show up.
How did they used to dress back then?
Gosh, when I first met them, they had headbands and kind of athletic gear, but very regular, just
Very regular.
yeah, like little
So the only
beach
thing
girls.
that
Beach girls
the only
and-
thing that really stood out was the fact that they were absolutely identical twins. Did one have the hair up and one have the hair down back then?
I don't think so back then. I think they both had ponytails, and they didn't have so much hair back then.
They had less hair.
They wore headbands and sneakers, and they just looked athletic, tanned and athletic.
Well,
and then
they-
I found out they were physical therapists or studying to be
Ah.
physical therapists back then, and then later on they became the nurse practitioners. I guess.
Well.